next mandatory attendance date is going to be October 23rd, where you're going to read out your 2-column TV script. This one will not be kind of sort of partially dedicated to, thank you. We won't have to do a midterm exam review on October 23rd, so we'll have all our time in order to hear you read out your script. So that's 2 weeks from today, right? On October 23rd, you'll be reading out a television script. If we look at the assignments that are coming up, we have one due next week, which is for a VOSOT script. A VOSOT is a type of television news item, okay? So that one is due on October 16th. And on October 23rd, we're all getting together to read a different script, all right? So this is why I'd like you to write down what's going on. So let's focus on October 23rd, first of all. This is a TV news package, which is going to be based on your radio feature. So a lot of the audio content of your TV news package will simply be the material that you did for the radio feature converted into a 2-column format, which will include instructions regarding video. So just like I prepared for you a PDF of radio script formatting information, this is a PDF of television script formatting information, okay? There are different types of stories that we'll be lecturing on next week. The VO, the VOSOT, and finally the TV package, which is what you will be presenting on October 23rd. So the assignment for October 23rd is take your radio feature with the stuff that you said and the sound bites that are in it, and imagine it, how should it be done in video? So you're going to be adding extra material about what kind of shots are there. What is a good place in order for you to do a stand-up as the reporter who's going to be on camera. So you had a lead that you did in your radio script. The lead probably will become, with some minor modifications, it's going to become a stand-up. A stand-up is a reporter saying, I'm here now with you in front of City Hall, where the City Council just voted to, extend free tuition at City College, or something like that. So that is a stand-up, all right? And so you're taking the material that you've already written and you're turning it into a TV package. And next week we are lecturing about all of what exactly is a TV package, okay? So that is due for October 23rd. Questions about that? Yes, Jesse.
Are we able to adjust our act clips or change them? So let's say, for example, like some of the act clips that we want to do on radio might be different from what we want to do on TV.
Of course, yeah. So the idea is to make the best possible version you can for television. So what I would prefer is that you don't just copy and paste your radio script, but in fact reconsider, even maybe going back to your original interview and saying, are there any actualities that I want in there that I didn't have a chance? Because this one's, you may find, you may want different ones. Good point.
And then I guess the class next week, will you be discussing the difference between like an event style of format versus like the ones that we do like our...
Nope, there's no difference in the format. It's all going to look like a 2-column script, regardless of whether it's an event or anything else.
Okay.
There's going to be a video column and an audio column, and so we'll explain what goes in there. But by copying, the format that's here already, you could probably just, do it. Yeah. But I'll be obviously talking about it in class. Hopefully that'll get to everybody.
This is fairly elementary, but is there a way to get the format from Microsoft Word to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. Again, I would demonstrate this in class, but so if you create a Word document or a Google Docs document, did I just launch Word or not?
You tried.
I tried. I thought I brought it up. Okay, let's try it again. There it is. I would have thought by hitting return it would launch it. Maybe not. Maybe I'm out of luck. Right? Okay. Oh, it's bouncing. Cool. There you are. In a blank document. Of course, if you were working in a regular radio or television station, they have their own proprietary software to do all this. But what we can do is we can insert a table and let's make it a 2-column table. And I would put just as many of these as I want.
All right.
And then I could go on cam and I could go audio. And then from here on in, when I have somebody talking, it's, you know, welcome and then etc. Or I just, you know, we'll follow formatting from then on in. But it's, you know, I'm here in front of City Hall, right? And blah blah blah. And then on camera, it would say, you know, long shot, City Hall, SF, something like that. And you would go on. So, you know, when you change to another shot, then you would go, you know, for instance, roll tape, because a package is usually combined with pre-recorded material and a live shot in front of some place. So we'll explain that, okay? So that one is October 23rd, 2 weeks from now, to give you time to adapt what you've already written. Maybe get some different actualities in there. Maybe get a different point of view if you focused on, you know, just one person at an event, but you had a couple of words from people who were attending. That would be an opportunity to, you know, put those in there as well. So similar game if it's Google Docs, which everyone has access to that for free. Create a 2-column table and then just lay it out like that. Some people want to hide the grids, but I find it's actually easier to do it that way, just to create a table. What's much harder is if you create a 2-column layout like this on a page where it splits everything left and right. So, you know, the page now would have a column here and a column here. The problem with that is it's hard to make things line up. As you type in something on the video side, the audio side will kind of shift. And it's a real pain in the butt. So I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't change the page layout to 2 columns. I would insert a table, a 2-column table like that. Okay?
Insert.
And we'll go over that next class too. But that I would do for both of these assignments. All right. So that one is for October 23rd, and that's where we're going to meet up and actually read these out. So that's important. And of course, whenever we meet up, we also talk about what's coming up ahead to make sure that everybody sort of heard it and had a chance to ask it. Because with our streaming format, it doesn't always seem to actually go through. And these are rather, you know, when you look at it, it's not that complicated, but when you're learning about it and explaining it, it is complicated, okay? So between now and the 23rd, there is another assignment, which is for a shorter type of news story. It's called a VOSOT. So this one is only a 45-second long item, which is not long, but that's a standard length for a VOSOT. So again, I direct you to the TV news formats, which we'll be talking about next class. Same document. So it describes here what is a VOSOT. And we'll launch into this after the midterm exam, just starting to talk. I'll show some examples. So a VOSOT is a very simple type of news story on TV, which begins with the anchor talking. You know, it's like, today Apple rolled out the new iPhones at, you know, the Moscone Center in downtown San Francisco. Cut. I continue to talk in voiceover, and I say, organizers estimate that 20,000 people attended to see the new devices. At this point, I'm talking in voiceover, and what you're seeing is crowds of people milling around the Moscone Center looking at the phones and stuff like that. And then, you know, product representative so-and-so, so-and-so told us about the new models. Cut, and we have what's called an SOT, sound on tape, which is the product manager saying, yeah, these things have bigger screens, they're more expensive, and we hope to sell 1 million of them. And that's the end of the VOSOT. So it's kind of in 3 steps. Anchor on camera, talking, cut at one point to anchor continues to talk, but there is pictures from the location. Cut, you're into the 3rd part of this, which is somebody talking, like an interview clip, the equivalent of an actuality, which they call an SOT on TV. Yep.
So for the personal interviews, we're just going from person to back to myself to back to person. Is that what it is, or?
Again, you know, I will be showing this next class streaming. If you want to be here, that would be great too. So basically, as I said, start out, the anchor on camera talking, blah, 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 blah. We cut. I'm still blah, blah, blahing, and we see pictures. Nobody talking yet. We just see pictures of the event. And then we cut, and someone from the event says something. There's an interview, full camera. The anchor does not interview them. It is simply a soundbite from the location. Again, I have lots of examples to show the next time. I'm just hoping that everyone is now going to be interested enough to be sure to be streaming the next classes to see it. So this assignment is not based on your original reporting. This assignment is based on some B-roll, which many of you will know is simply it is video that was shot on location at a particular place. So the story that we're working on to do a 45-second VOSOT is a police training exercise somewhere in Arizona. So this is full of video shots that you will talk over in your VOSOT, right? So we'll start out, let's say the anchor will say, today, 40 recruits or today 40 police academy graduates and local officers engaged in a training exercise to defend a local high school against active shooters. Cut. Now you're seeing this, but I continue to talk. I'm the anchor person, right? The training was intensive. The police are learning how to, stop an attack before it becomes too serious. They use rubber bullets and simulated attackers in order to train, and then cut. And you take a soundbite out of this guy.
Such as an active shooter. In this case, pushing all of the ancillary issues such as the victims, the location, all of the chaos that ensues in an active shooter environment.
Okay, so you'll be selecting a soundbite from that interview, which is how you would finish the VOSOT, right? And I have, to make this easier for you, transcribed everything that the police chief says. So you would basically be picking out your SOTs, which we would have called actualities in radio talk. You're picking them out from there. You're going to look through there and say, okay, what's my best actuality to pull from that to finish off this script? Okay. So we'll start in looking at all this material after next class. But it's a decent example of a VOSOT which has some very visual material and a kind of a visceral subject matter, given how often this type of thing happens and stuff. So I think it's a decent thing to write a 45-second script out of. So the material's all there in the assignment. It can be done pretty quickly, and so we'll start after the midterm. I'll start presenting about it. Yeah.
So it ends right after the SOT. There's no sign-off or anything?
No, there's no sign-off. Yeah, that would be in a package, but that's right. Since it's the anchor who's actually providing all the information, either on camera and then a voiceover, so the anchor never does a lockout or a sign-off or whatever. Yeah, good point.
So when is this one due?
This one is due next week.
Next week.
Yep. So again, all the facts are supplied to you. Basically, all you have to do is write the 30-second intro from the anchor, pick some pictures, and pick a soundbite out of there. So that's what we want to do there. And it'll be our introduction to the formatting that this stuff, right? So this explains what a VOSOT is, and again, here's an example of a VOSOT, basically. We'll look over at next class, okay? So it's all there. In fact, you could probably do it, just like that, but we'll be streaming about it next class. So questions about either of those? If I go back to the syllabus, that's the VOSOT script, due next week. And then the week after is your TV package based on the reporting you did for your radio feature. Okay? And then looking ahead after that, we'll be transforming your reporting into a web package after that. Okay? Good. I hope good. I hope you're all feeling okay. It's not hard to do this, and it's kind of fun. All right, so we go from the fun stuff to the less fun stuff, which is reviewing for our midterm. So there is, let's see, there's the splash page. Okay, so all to get to the modules, you click on that link, and up will come the modules. And so the midterm covers all of the stuff that we've been looking at up till now. A very useful thing for each of these modules is the web quiz that's available to you there. So these have actual questions that'll be on the midterm in the web quizzes, so that's a good idea to study those up. And if I'm here in the modules, if I look down to the midterm exam review page, so that is on this week's module. If we go there, you'll see that I linked to all of the web quizzes for each of those chapters. So, yep, just got easier. And there we go.
How much time you have?
40 minutes.
40 minutes.
So you can come here to write it, or you can write it at home through Canvas. So it's up to you.
It's at 1:30 exactly, right?
It opens up at 12:30. When class starts, it opens up at 12:30.
How long will we have to do it before it closes up?
You have 40 minutes.
All right, do it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. So you can come to class. You can take it online. How many people thinking they might want to do it in class? Because I have to print out. I don't want to print out the whole time.
I'll do it in class.
Okay, Ron and Chow. Anybody else? Okay. 4. All right. Okay. So I'll print. Yeah, maybe. Okay. So let's say I'll print 10 just in case. We'll see. All right. Cool. So these have been up since over the weekend. I hope you had a chance to look at them. If you didn't, we're going to go through them now and take a look at what's on them. Well, chapter 1 was about audience, the importance of audience, and what audiences are interested in. So the basic takeaway idea was, when you are figuring out what you want to write, instead of pleasing yourself or informing yourself, inform your audience, which means you need to know what they need to know about. And also, there was the newsworthy acronym, right, which was FOCI, which is something that we could probably remember. Oh, I just erased this. Next Tuesday on October 16th, there is a flex day. If you were in high school, remember those professional days when the teachers all sat around and talked and no students came to school? So that's what a flex day is at City College. Teachers sit around and talk. So no classes on Tuesday, October 16th. Okay, so just remember, we don't have one and there are not going to be any others. So remember, FOCI was an acronym for newsworthiness. But now let's have a look at these. When two or more individuals or collective units, i.e. groups, are seeking a goal that is mutually exclusive, in other words, they can't get the same thing, what will arrive? Oddity, immediacy, value, conflict?
Conflict.
Conflict, we think. Oh, yeah. Let's take a look at that. Oh, my God. We have to submit and get the answer. Indeed, it was conflict. All right, so that would correspond to the C in foci, right? C stands for conflict. So these are some of the things that audiences are usually interested in. If the story has conflict, it's cool. The element of something helps you explain how the information you put forth will directly affect your readers. What would that be?
Impact.
Impact. Let's have a look here. Let's give it a shot like that. Everyone is free to join in, of course, so that's impact.
She's like, I'm the Kahoot now.
You're the queen of cahoots. Yeah, okay. So that's cool. Impact. Let's move on to the next one because there are about 10 for each. Some kind of perspectives measure the numerical reach of an impact.
B.
Quantitative? Yeah, that makes sense, doesn't it? Let's have a look. Submit. Come on, why am I? Yes, quantitative. All right, so that's good. Let's move on to the next one. You guys are doing well. Some kind of impacts examine the severity of the impact.
Hey.
So the previous one was some kind of perspectives measure the numerical reach. We got quantitative. What would measure the impact? I'm going to vote A too, just like you guys did. That's right. So qualitative. So the difference here would be if you were talking about, fires in Sonoma, you could detail how many houses or how many billions of dollars had been lost. That's a numerical assessment. If you instead talk to individuals about how traumatized they are, then you're examining, the qualitative, because the individual can tell you about the quality of that experience, how hard it was. When an audience needs to understand why a story matters to them, this need can be met by
Personal impact.
showing the reader personal impact. Check that out. Yes, good, good. I can tell you guys have been studying like mad already. You're getting them all right. When an audience needs engagement, this need can be met by telling the story in a timely way, telling the story in an interesting way, telling a story with an emphasis on oddities or geographic location.
Interesting way.
Let's try interesting way. I think so. B, absolutely. Okay. So engagement means you're capturing their interest. In order to make audiences care about a story, it is helpful to offer them more information about famous people. It's true, famous people do attract us. More conflict, ways to act, or interesting details. What would you say?
Ways to act.
Ways to act.
Ways to act? Let's see. Woohoo! You guys are on a streak. C, ways to act. Okay? Ways to act. Demographics commonly include age, gender, race, education, relationship status. True. Okay. Let's call that true. Right. So the way that we commonly understand audiences in mass media is through demographic characteristics. So if you are working in a channel which has an older audience, you will understand them by their age, and you will write stories for them that might interest people of their age group. People relate well to events that happen far away from them and less to those happen near them. Is that true or false? False. Typically false. As a generalization, okay. Right? Next up, psychographics allow media professionals to examine an audience based on personality traits, values, interests, and attitudes, to name a few. That sounds kind of like psychographics, right? Cool. So that is different from demographics, which tend to deal more with biological differences. Psychographics, more to deal with social differences. One way to approach your audience is to conceptualize its members in a way that makes them more real for you. True or false? True, right? Okay. So it can often help to visualize who will be your audience. I was listening to a influencer podcast, and they were saying you've got to have your avatar. You got to know who you're talking to when you're doing your video episodes. It's interesting. The less important the person, the more likely people will pay attention. Come on. That's right. So what that means is we are drawn to famous people. So that's famous people. And we've dealt with impact and immediacy. We're still looking for an O question, I guess. As we go on, next. In the field of media, we ignore rarities. Here it is. Here's our O question. In the field of media, we ignore rarities and avoid reporting on elements that make them different from everyday occurrences. False, right? We love stuff that is out of the ordinary. If it wasn't, it probably wouldn't be news. So that is the value of oddity. Okay, so we've got fame, oddity, conflict, impact, and immediacy. So those are the different parts of the newsworthy acronym. When two or more individuals or collective units, we already did this one, are seeking a goal that is mutually exclusive, conflict will arise. Okay, click submit, sorry. Oh, okay. And immediacy. People don't really want to know what is happening around them before anyone else does. False, okay. So this explains why we want up-to-date information. And there we go, we got 100%. Good for us, good for us. Okay, so you may want to run that one again, or you may just figure, okay, that went pretty well.
And then you're there by yourself. Oh my God.
I'll be running them all tonight. Okay, next up, let's check out for chapter 2. And we'll go the immediate feedback route. All right. So this chapter emphasized the importance of accuracy in reporting the news. We used it to start a little bit of conversation about being responsible in our reporting, telling the truth, being as accurate as we can. It's good business because if your media outlet loses credibility, then you're basically going to lose readership, so that's not good. And of course, it's good in a social way because when we're surrounded by lies, things are getting more difficult. So, something is the most important aspect of your job, regardless if you are publishing a newspaper or broadcasting.
Accuracy.
What'd you say? Accuracy, right?
Conflict.
Yeah, conflict. I'm there to get kicked out of my job. Something is a selective process which allowed media officials to determine what people would and would not see.
Gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping. Okay, let's try that out. I'm not even sure. You guys are good. Today, something has opened up the floodgates of information, making the job of professional media operatives different, but even more crucial. Internet. Oh, lovely. Good. Okay. Today, something helps people separate fact from fiction, reality from myth, and honesty from dishonesty.
Media writers.
Okay. We have a very positive opinion of ourselves. The primary rule to remember about media writing is to look up everything you want to include and anything you write, to go by memory as much as possible, to include it if it sounds good, don't waste too much time on fact checking.
Include it if it sounds good.
Yeah, well, you think it'll get clicks, but that's the wrong way to do it, right? Good places to verify your information include all of the following except what? So source documents, that sounds good. Websites of unknown origins located in Eastern Europe, maybe not. Dead tree publications, your own work. I'll go for the D, right? And as we continue on, basic fact checking includes all of the following except check spelling, review proper nouns, consider different ways to act, look into the numbers.
Different ways to act.
Considering different ways to act. Yeah, this is cool. All right, as we move on, when you do basic fact checking, it's important to look into any numbers included in the story. True, for sure. Right? Make sure they add up. One way to avoid confusion is to paraphrase a source's quotes as much as possible.
No.
Probably false, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay, continue on. Instead of sticking with vague terms, do more research to solidify your claims or attribute the information to a source. True, right? Let's dig in and be as clear as we can. In order to engage your readers, it's a good idea to start with an absolute.
False.
We say false, especially in broadcasting. Remember, we tend to start with concrete things like people that are affected by some larger, more abstract problem. Then we'll move out and talk about the problem. If you can't explain it, it's okay to write it if it attracts readers.
No.
Very bad sign, especially if you report on science or something. When writing for the media, the key is to examine the fewest number of sources for key facts as you can. False, right? False. Okay, next. Hoaxes and myths used to be present on the internet in the past, but are no longer an issue. True, everything's being cleaned up. The Justice Department's taking care of it. There are some people who post misinformation and rumors online just for fun.
Yeah.
The trolls. Okay, true. Score, we got 100%. Good for us.
This should be like the actual test. I mean, we're all here, right?
We could, but then
Thanks for everybody.
if you didn't do well, you'd probably say, hey, we never reviewed for this test. So here we are, we're reviewing.
All right.
Okay, immediate feedback. So this one talked about the basics of writing in whatever the medium. So writing the cleanest possible copy should matter a great deal to you because of all of the following except one. It enhances trust between the writer and the reader, for sure. It improves understandability. Yes, consistency helps reader. It's time consuming. That sounds like the bad one, right? Okay, good. You should write using your fanciest style possible. No. Clearly and plainly to best reach your readers. That sounds good. With as much length as possible, certainly not in broadcasting. Using the biggest words you know. Yeah, we want to be conversational and short to the point. As you build each sentence, start at the beginning of the sentence or at the end, at the core of the sentence with a noun, verb, and object, or anywhere you want. What would you say? C. Yep, C. Okay, so if ever you find things are getting too cluttered and confusing, go back to your basic noun, verb, object structure, and you'll be good. Active voice writing is beneficial for all of the following reasons except what? It is shorter. It is clearer, it strengthens your sentence. It places the object first. Places the object first, right? So that's because the active sentence structure would be subject, verb, object. You know, president fires the assistant attorney general. So that's it. President's doing the action, the verb, and the object. So that's your
Hey, we see
simple
what's on your mind.
Yeah.
I know. I was tweeting him about it yesterday. Get rid of that guy. You got who you want on the Supreme Court. Something will control the pace and flow of your writing, the length of each sentence, each word, each thought, each paragraph. Sentence. That's really what we have the control over. Yeah. So, you know, keep those sentences pretty short, but don't make it uniformly short. You want to vary it. Sentences pack a punch. Which ones? Long, short, medium? Short. Yes. Next up. Something is often the best way to help you determine if a sentence is too long or has construction issues.
Reading out loud.
Yes, good. Again, especially since we are writing to actually be read on the air, it's essential. Now the computers have spell check, there is no real need to use dictionaries. False, because we still want to know what those words mean. Okay, next up, write quickly, but edit slowly. True or false?
True.
True, otherwise you won't survive. Absolutely. Yeah. So get it all out on the page and then edit it carefully. That's good advice. Cliches are good to use because everyone knows cliches.
No.
False. Okay. Right. Cliches can discourage people from thinking about a story because they've already heard all of it. Go through each sentence you write and try to insert words and phrases that add length wherever possible. Good Lord. False. On the contrary, once you've written something, go through and see if you can make it simpler and shorter, okay? Which is something that people don't typically do because they don't rewrite enough. But you should do it. First annual is an example of a redundancy.
Yes, sure.
First annual? Oh, let's try true because Jesse says true. First annual. Can we consider that for a sec? Why am I having doubts? If it's annual, it happens every year, right?
It's the first one.
It's never happened.
Okay, got it. Thank you for clearing that up. So if it was 10th annual, it wouldn't be redundant. But because it's first annual, it is. All right. Well, I think I would have got that one wrong, yeah. But you guys see the sense of it. Possessives and contractions are pretty much the same thing.
I think they would have the same, they'd be called the same thing if they were the same.
Well, I think what they're getting at here is there would be don't, which would be a contraction of do not. And then there's also the use of the apostrophe to indicate a possessive. So, I don't know, Sherry's Mike or something like that. So, do sometimes see, some writing mistakes regarding that, especially with it's, which is it is, right? But the possessive doesn't take an apostrophe there. An exception there. So, possessives and contractions, they can't be the same thing. They'd have the same name if they were. Reduce the use of prepositions. That's false. Oh no! I got it wrong. True. Zoot. Okay.
You're not gonna put this one.
Yeah. Is it in there? I was actually going to check. I had intended to go through all of this and knock out the ones that we couldn't get, just like that. But it's too hard to find where they are and stuff. So, all right, reduce the word use of prepositions. Let us put that on the no use list, and then we'll come back. Reduce use of prepositions. If it's actually in here even, because not all of these obviously make it into the test, right? Some of them get changed around a bit. So. To avoid using qualifiers, you should do more research.
Yeah.
True, false?
True.
True, I'd say, yeah. So that you can be more precise, basically. Score. 93. It's me who got it wrong. You didn't get it wrong. Okay. All right, so thus ends Chapter 3. As we move on to Chapter 4. Super exciting. I love midterms. By the way, this one is worth 10% of your final grade. If you inaccurately report your information, your something will suffer because people will not be able to trust you. Credibility. Okay.
Credulity.
We're on solid ground with that. Well, we understand the difference between credibility and credulity, right? Okay, good. Well, we just, it's all good to be fun, but maybe we don't. In a media setting, you want your writing to be long, medium? Short. Definitely not unwieldy. And we continue. Active voice requires you to write in the noun, verb, object, right? Yes. So remember we said before subject, verb, object. Of course, the president is a noun. And as we continue, get the most important information to your readers as quickly as possible. People want things to be immediate, so let's give them immediacy as long as we can get it right. The inverted pyramid style of writing tells a story in descending order, right? Descending order. So remember the inverted pyramids like this with the most important stuff here, the least important stuff there. So it would be descending order of importance. Okay. Leads traditionally have a focus on your editor, producer.
When, where, why.
I think so, right? That's your summary lead. We did talk about different types of lead, but that's your most basic summary lead, which is about half of your typical reader story. So, the inverted pyramid has you put your information into, well, we just said that, didn't we? It's weird. One of the primary things media writing demands of you is accuracy. True or false? Next up, get the most important information to your readers as slowly as possible. Good Lord. Obviously not all of these are going in the test. Writing in inverted pyramid style means writing the most important thing first, then move to the second most. Yep, we'd say it's true. Okay, and we go on.
Well, I think they're just messing with you because they want to see if you're like paying attention.
Yeah.
Because you end up saying like, yeah, one time, and then the next couple of times.
Oh, perhaps.
you say wrong.
Okay, well, I'll put them all in then. The core of a sentence comes down to the direct object and the verb. Direct object and the verb. I mean, are we missing the subject here? Am I going to go for false and potentially get it wrong? Let's do it false. Geez, so we forgot the subject in there. I'm sorry. You don't want to give your readers the most recent information at the top of whatever you are writing. False. So I have to submit. Thank you. The big problem with you leads is that they can become opinionated and presumptuous. All right? So don't you hate it when something, and then it turns out, well, actually, I kind of like that. So that's presumptuous about what your audience likes or dislikes. And there's other ways to lead a story that are better. Question leads are a great way to start a story. They're cheap. They're cheap. False. Ever wondered what this is about? Okay, so we got 100% on that one. Not too bad. As we continue on to chapter 5. Okay, sourcing. Many companies provide miniature somethings on their staff members, especially those in the upper echelons of the organization. Biographies, right? They say who does what. Conducting the interview at your subject's home base is recommended because it can keep them more relaxed and allow them to dress the way they want. Allow you to do some observing. Good point. Okay, so there you can gather interesting details that say something about your subject that they haven't actually said in words. According to your text, one of the best places to get information about an interview subject is from gossip blogs, ex-partners. I love it. In approaching a source, either by phone, in person, or through some other means, make sure you display your tattoos.
Muscles.
I didn't even look at the other answers.
It's a good thing they're keeping it light.
All at the same time. I think it's the best.
Yeah, there's
Right?
not all of the above.
Okay. Extra credit question. Recording your discussion, repurposing the material. Oh, sorry. If a source says you can't record the interview, explain that you want to record the material to make sure you get things right.
Record it without
Yeah.
telling them.
Yeah, right. Tell them you're going to do it anyway and find yourself on the street. Okay, so here we go. Try to explain why it's useful. Some kind of questions can solicit extended answers from your sources. Loaded, yeah. Open-ended, right? Those will allow them to talk. Before you ask your questions of a source, it's a good idea to ask the questions of yourself or have a colleague look through them. Try to forget about them. Keep them out of sight or ignore them. Okay, so there we go. All right. Most papers have their archives digitized, making them easy to access online. True, right? That's what they're. One of the great things of the internet. One of the best places to get information about an interview subject is from other people who know your source. The purpose of an interview is not related to what types of questions you will prepare.
False.
Okay, false. In other words, if you know the purpose of your interview, you'll have much more precise questions that are, more useful than your general, so how did you begin doing this? Which is nothing wrong with that type of question, but if you know your purpose, you can get better questions. When it comes to meeting a source, first determine what you hope to accomplish and what you want to know about that person. True, right? So again, go in with an agenda so that you know what you got, what you need. When you start your interview, it is best to be laid back in your approach. Probably true, right? Don't start, oh, what? Okay. There we go. I'm on my way to getting a B today. So the correct answer was false. It's terrible, isn't it? All right.
So you don't want to be laid back on your approach when you start interviewing?
I guess you want to be polite and correct without being too.
But
Hey,
this
dude. So just tell me,
depends,
dude.
Right? I mean,
Sure,
it depends the
depends.
kind of interview, the relation you have with that person or not. So it's.
Absolutely. I mean, these are a lot of these are generalizations.
I think the idea is that they want you to be attentive, like you're like sitting up in the chair, you're listening to what they're saying, you know, rather than, oh, go ahead and tell me what to do.
Yeah, right. Recorder's running.
Whatever.
Say whatever you want. I'll listen to this later. Yeah. Right. Good point. Good point. Your source will most likely not have a presence on social media sites such as Twitter or Facebook, only if it's an aging professor. Okay, next up. When it comes to a professional interview, preparation is not essential. False. You definitely want to be prepared. Right. In some cases, a person is a big deal in a trade or field, but hasn't got a lot of attention in mainstream newspapers or magazines.
True.
Sounds true to me, depending on what they do. Okay. Score, 93%. Ah, damn. I'm going to take all these again and make sure.
Well, you don't have to take the test. That's the beauty of it.
That's true. I'll probably spend more time correcting it than you guys do taking it. Oh, so this is a link to a later edition of the book where we
I found
only.
this one a little bit more annoying because it doesn't give you the answers
It's.
right.
I agree. So
This thing in
wait,
the middle
but
between
wait,
one
we
question
can.
and another.
On my website, I should have.
Well, I couldn't see those, so when it popped up,
Chapter 8. If I go to the web quiz through my website, I think I can. Yeah, there it is. Woo! Excellent. We don't have to play the boring way. I'll change those links so you guys can enjoy this way. Reporting on a commencement address is an example of covering a speech. Very good. Next. Reporting on a city council meeting is an example of covering a
E.T.
meeting. Oh yeah, we did this in class, didn't we? Right? Yeah, that one was pretty obvious, right? A meeting is a meeting. But I remember when we did it in class, we weren't so sure. Reporting on a new product is introduction during an organized event for media at a corporate headquarters is an example of covering a news conference. Okay, so it's not breaking news because it's all prepackaged, right? When it comes to preparing for an event, it can be helpful to do all of the following except ignore other reporters who have attended these events before. We should be vigilant. Breaking news events are among the most something stories for reporters to cover. Difficult, right? Because you don't know what's going to happen, so you don't have it necessarily. At this type of event, your job as a reporter is to sit in as a substitute for your readers and distill for them what happened. What would that be?
Meetings.
Meetings, right? Because that's where, the information is, it's going to be varied. You're going to have to summarize what happened. Okay. Something can include some of the background you gathered, any quotes you got from sources prior to the event, and optional lead elements based on the outcome of the event. What would you call that? Shell, right? Okay, so this is actually one of the more intriguing questions. I'm not saying they were all intriguing, but so this is the idea that you're writing on deadline and, let's say you're going to a meeting that evening or that afternoon and something has to go out on the evening broadcast. You don't know exactly what will happen, but you have a pretty good idea of what's going to happen. So you create what you call a shell, which is like the story in advance. So you've got all the pieces that you need together. You've got the background information. You've got, some ideas for the lead and stuff so that when it happens, if what you thought was going to happen, your story's already half written. If it doesn't happen, you still may have something to bounce off of. You know, it's like, well, everyone was expecting this to be decided, but at the last minute, it was decided some other way or something. So in both cases, the shell can help you, you know, get the product out faster. So that actually is an interesting question there, a good thing to know about. Not every meeting, speech, or news conference merits news coverage. Very true. A lot going on at the White House. It is not necessary to assess the news value of the event. Right? False. We don't have space, time in order to put something that has no news value. Speeches often contain multiple points of view. False. Only speeches delivered by schizophrenics. Okay. News conferences are not helpful for an organization to disseminate a single message to multiple media outlets at a single moment. False. So that is by definition what a news conference is for. You get together the material to give to all the reporters at once. Background research does not help you determine what will happen at the event, who is involved. This is why we do it. Right? The purpose of any event story is to find the most important aspects of what happened and report them to people who need to know about them. True. Here we go again. Next. Just because you hadn't planned for these things, it doesn't necessarily follow that they don't matter to your reader. Is that a double negative? I found that vaguely challenging for a second. Post-meeting interviews are not helpful.
You want to talk to me afterwards? No. I don't want to talk
Right,
to you.
right.
I don't want to know.
Exactly.
I know.
So good point. On the other hand, you know, it would be advisable, even if you're nervous and you've been trying to get to talk to this person, try to leave them with your card. Try to suggest, ask them if you can talk to them again. Right? Which is, so perhaps we wouldn't be so silly as to deny the possibility, but would we remember that we actually have to set that up in advance? Okay, let's see quiz chapter 10. Let's just move back into the modules. So chapter 10 regards writing for broadcasting, and we haven't covered all of that chapter.
The link of this one is nice, I think, in the other.
Oh, is it? Oh,
Yeah.
thanks. That way I don't have to look for it. Yes, 10. Oh. All right, yes, you're right. Immediate feedback. Some kind of writing means sticking firmly to the noun verb or the noun verb object sentence. All right, I'll call it concise. That's good. In broadcast, the audience members only get
1.
0. No, 1. Okay. They never get a chance to hear your story. Excellent. In broadcast writing, complex numbers are written
The accurate.
accurate approximations. Right. Okay. Next up, most broadcast scripts are
Double
typed double, like we do, or triple, like some other people do. When you type your script, look for opportunities to recast your verbs in
present.
present tense. So broadcasting is pseudo-present tense. It's always like everything should be breaking now. When you need to use abbreviations, you can use something to dictate how you want someone to pronounce something.
A.
Those are called hyphens and spacing. A. So that would be if you have the D, M, E, if you want. Just write it out like that. Next up, the lead of a broadcast story is written akin to a printer web headline. Okay. Broadcast writing structure isn't exactly conversational, but it almost is.
You know, it's
I
not
say true?
exactly.
Not exactly. Okay. It's a little more formal.
The tone is conversational, but it's not exactly.
Yeah. Because broadcast copy has to be read aloud smoothly, the script is often double or triple spaced. Yes. Okay. Almost tripped me up on that one. In broadcast, the reader must also know how the word should sound when spoken.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, next up. Scripts often include phonetic elements called phonetics. They're not called phonetics. They're called pronouncers. Broadcast copy tends to use exact numbers. Okay, this is the last one, right? In the field of media, we ignore rarities. And we've already had that one. That's false. Broadcast writing tends to follow less of an inverted pyramid structure than print or web. What do you say? It's true, okay? So the number of times we have looked, so if this is your typical print diagram, your broadcast diagram would be more of a diamond shape. Where you start out with something very specific, somebody, being impacted by the broad part of the story, the big policy of, or whatever, something less immediate. And then very often you come back to something very immediate at the end of the story. All right, so that's that. And one more, knowledge. In broadcast, the writers assume that the audience members are fully paying attention to the stories. So we assume you're kind of half listening and driving and stuff. Why we try to make things especially clear, right? You thought it was over, but no, there's a few more points down here. Additional materials which don't come from the web stuff, but, or maybe they do. Let's see here. KISS stands for Keep It Simple, students.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, it does in this class. We don't want to offend anybody. Concise writing sticks to basic sentence structure, noun plus verb or noun, verb, object, right? Okay, we've seen that on several occasions. Look for opportunities to use present tense without sounding weird. So there's an example. Firefighters continue to battle a blaze that yesterday claimed 10 lives and has already caused millions of dollars of damage. Okay. So this notion that, yes, it happened yesterday, but we're reporting on it today. So we look for whatever is ongoing right now, and we start the sentence that way. So, bank employees are recovering from the shock of yesterday's holdup, which, saw crooks taking millions of dollars from the bank or whatever. Even if you didn't go and actually report on them, it's a fair assumption that they're, recovering. It's easier for audiences to follow a story in chronological order. That's absolutely true. So that's one of the ways of telling a story is, things began at 6 p.m. after people got out of work, and the traffic just kept getting worse and worse. By 8, people were abandoning their cars on the side of the road and walking home. So it's like going in a chronological order is very often the way we work because it's the way we live. The lead of a broadcast story is like a newspaper headline. It has to grab your attention. So we did that. Broadcast writers use accurate approximations. It's funny. I'm repeating quite a lot that we've already seen. We have to write simply because the audiences hear us only once. Broadcast scripts are typed in double spaced. Some hard to pronounce names and places are written like out. They're called pronouncers. All right. So this is all basically a review of review. Broadcast stories often loop back around to the incident with which they started in a circular structure. Okay. Well.
Diamond.
We do it like this, and we come back like this. So we start a story on, salmonella in the food chain or something like that. We start with somebody, tossing out a bunch of food they're afraid is infected. We go to the broader story, where did it happen? They're trying to figure out what it was. Coming back home, and you see, dad happy with the kids saying, I'm glad I threw that out, even if I don't know it's good or bad. I don't want my kids to get poisoned. So that's circular structure, I guess. Another name for a reporter's lockout is the close of a story. So we call it the lockout in the materials that I make available to you. So I have a feeling in the textbook they call it the close, but we always called it a lockout. If a story contains a soundbite, it's called a wrap. A story that's read by the anchor and contains no soundbite is called what?
A reader.
A reader, right? Okay, so that's the difference between reader and wrap, right? A wrap has a soundbite in the middle of it. To have your anchor say the acronym for our Board of Governors, you would write the B-O-G. Okay, so that is, it's not a true false, that is the way you would do it. So when you have an acronym and you want people to read, you know, B-O-G instead of BOG, you write dashes between the letters. Another name for soundbite is actuality, right? So in everyday language, we call it a soundbite, but in radio talk, they call it an actuality. And we will see that in video TV talk, they call it an SOT, sound on tape. All right, well, that was tedious as hell, but I basically saved it all for the day before the exam because I know how tedious it is.
It's okay. Just flex your muscles and show your teeth. Everything.
There we go. That's it.
Good manners.
So you can continue this by practicing on the web quizzes, 40 questions, 40 minutes. It will open up at the start of class time at 12:30. If you want to be here, you can write it on paper. Otherwise, write it at home. We will stream in class after we've had a chance to do our exam here in class. I will start explaining the VOSOT material. So that'll be streaming. It'll also eventually be archived. And yeah, questions? No? We have 7 minutes left. Would anyone like to read their feature script, their radio feature? Just for our fun. I mean, there's like tons of people. I only want volunteers here. Anyone want to volunteer? And if you don't want to volunteer, we don't have to. I can gladly read.
What about the acts? We have to read the act as well?
Unless we just put it up on the screen and I read the acts. You can be the anchor if you want. Natalia, do you want to do one? All right.
Good.
We have in the past dedicated an entire class to doing these. I would happily do that again. On the 23rd, actually, that's my idea, is that we'll all have a chance to read these. So, this is the feature script.
Reading the video ones from the 23rd, though. Right?
That's correct. Yeah, the video ones. Yeah, which is based on this. So hopefully we'll be getting the best of this material here.
Well, I have it here on the paper. So.
Well, it's good so people can see because a good part of this is also formatting and such too. So already I see this is terrific. I see a 3-line slug. Hopefully you had that with the name of the reporter and the total runtime. Okay, Natalia, hit it. Or I'm the anchor. You be the reporter. Okay. 5 years ago, a young couple decided to change their lives completely and start a blogger's life, trying to help people to love and accept themselves just the way they are. Self-confidence is the clue to succeed. KCSF's Natalia Denbauer has the story.
It is actually impressive how much Sarah and Robbie's lives have changed the past 5 years. This couple from Las Vegas decided just to quit their jobs, move to the Bay Area, and make their lives, the dreams come true. They wanted to dedicate their lives to social media. Sarah always wanted to start a fashion and body positivity blog, but her overweight made her feel insecure about it. Robbie helped her to change her mind, and he encouraged her to start the blog. All started with an Instagram post. The couple went to Miami, they did a photo shoot, and Robbie decided that he wanted to share one of those pictures on the beach and also express what he thinks about Sarah and her body.
I just wanted to share how attracted I am to Sarah and how much I love her. You know, this is the woman I share my life with. And it started getting likes, and then it started getting a lot of likes.
David said that it was something unexpected and unstoppable. The people not only started following them, also asking about their relationship, asking for advices.
You know, it's a snowball effect. Once it starts, it's getting bigger and bigger, and you can't stop it.
Sarah and Robbie have been working really hard to get to where they are today, but you know, the blogger life is not always easy. They say that being a blogger means living connected to their phone almost 24/7, and for sure, you're always exposed to criticism.
I had so many women message me and say, like, how could you let your husband talk about your cellulite? He's just trying to bring you down. You need to divorce him.
Sarah and Robbie have helped a lot of people to feel better and love themselves no matter the weight. In the past 5 years, they have influenced thousands of people all around the world. They became viral and they're happy to share their lives with the rest of the world. But now it's time for a change. After living some years in the Bay Area, the couple wants to move to Phoenix to continue their career and also start a family.
Sorry, I don't think I have any more here.
We had
Maybe
a
I
blast
do.
here in the Bay Area. It's been, amazing.
Oh, here it is. Sorry. But it's time to go back to our roots and, look for the baby trip.
Sarah and Robbie are really excited about moving to Phoenix. They are building a new home there where they will start a new family and continue their career.
Our followers are crazy excited about what is coming. Well, and so are we. This is also going to bring us a lot of work and money.
They didn't know until when they are going to be able to live from the blogs, but so far it seems like it totally works. This is Natalia from KCSF.
All right. Thank you for showing it. Sorry, I didn't,
Oh, no
What's
worries.
up with my PDF? What's up with my PDF inabilities here? So what did you guys think? First of all, of the story as a profile, were those interesting people? Is it an interesting topic?
I mean, I had a lot of information, because it was a long interview. So I was like, oh my God, I don't know what can I put in here, like to make it interesting. So I hope I'm gonna put more on the TV probably, I'm gonna take some more information. But I wanted to, start from the beginning and something to, has to make sense, right?
Got it. I think you did. What does everyone else think?
I like it. I think reading someone else's script also made me realize what pieces I forgot to add on mine.
Well, feel free to update. No, folks, I've only read 2 of these, and I will be happy to read any updated versions and not count them late either. So if this is helping you get to the kind of style that we want, go ahead and do it. Especially at this early stage, because as we move ahead, more and more is going to be based on this, right? So if you want to change it around and add and change it, that's terrific. So yeah, number one, I felt what came through with this, which was real interesting, was, this is a kind of a social category on the rise, influencers, people making an interesting amount of money or getting attention through their, blogging basically. I find that pretty interesting. There's an interesting, twist here on the, there are a billion kind of health and lifestyle blogs out there, but one that is, kind of unabashedly body positive. I thought that was a really interesting aspect of this, where she doesn't have to be, kind of a fashion model in order to make this work for her, but on the contrary, it's, a nice relationship. I thought some of the actualities were really well chosen. They, for instance, the last one, you get some personality. As you were reading it, I felt again what I felt when I was reading it, is that we go a pretty long time without hitting an actuality. Typically, if we hear more than about 20 seconds or 30 seconds, let's say, of reporter talking, I was expecting an actuality here. Yeah, in terms of pacing, you're basically just waiting for it. But after that, all of the the kind of rhythm of the piece, where how often we go to actuality, I think that worked out real well. Obviously, there's a couple of minor grammar things or whatever which come from the fact that English is not your first language, and we already appreciate that you've done all this work to bring it to the 99% perfection that it is. So and that goes for everybody else who English is not their first language. I mean, there's extra work here, and we're appreciative of that. We understand that getting it to this point is a bit of an achievement. So awesome. Formatting, it looks really good. It looks like exactly what we were after. Other people?
I wasn't. Did you say what the name of the blog or what the Instagram account was?
Well, I mean, if you look for Sarah and Robbie Trip, which I think I mentioned that.
Okay.
But I was thinking about putting the name of the blog, but the thing is, it's kind of complicated, and I don't think listening that people can understand.
Okay.
because it's not really an easy
What's
name.
the name?
Go.
When you say the
Sass-
URL or
it's
something?
Sassy Red Lipstick
Okay.
all together. Sassy is like, I
You
don't
could
know.
say that.
Yeah.
You could, just sort of in your lockout or your, they call it close in the textbook, I guess. But on the way there, you could just say, you want to keep up with their latest, go to sassyredlipstick.whatever.
Yeah, sure.
And then, after that, they can, if they don't, you don't have to tell them exactly the URL. I'm sure that would lead them to it if they search.
Is that why when like people do closures, they say follow or check out my blog page to jump into their links or whatever?
Yeah, typically, it's if this was an interesting person, you want to let them know where to go to get more information about it.
Right.
It just makes a lot of sense. And so yeah, good point.
Yeah,
It's a good idea. We do want to be able to keep following along. Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, we're done for today. So otherwise, if I don't see you on Thursday, good luck on the exam. And remember,
See each other on the 23rd.
yeah, we're going to see each other on the 23rd for the next leg.